Hey, University of Utah fans, did you know that every academic discipline, college, learning outcome, yada, 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 has its own librarian? We wouldn't be accredited as a university otherwise. My name is Dale Larson. You can see my email right here. Contact me anytime you want because I am the librarian for this class and the Department of Communication, as well as some other things. And did you know that there's librarians all over the place? So it's not just me working by myself. So what are the three things we're going to look at today? I'm going to teach you strategies to find primary sources like direct quotes. So primary source we often think of as something that's kind of like a thing that stands on its own, but I'm talking about primary sources where somebody is directly quoted and maybe it's in the Tribune, maybe it's on KSL, something like that. So I'll show you how to look at those. And I'm giving suggestions. These aren't the only ways to do this. I'm going to show you how to glean debate rhetoric from library licensed secondary sources. That sounds so dull, but in essence, it's looking at all the newspapers in the United States, or it's looking at all of a particular topic in the grand scheme of things, so you can see like what has come before and what the future is looking at. And then lastly, we're going to look at how to perform high-level scholarly research. So some of that is going to be looking for articles, and then some of that will be looking for what are the most influential, impactful articles. Okay, and here's our sample. DEI on Utah campuses, House Bill 261, bathrooms and changing rooms, and social media regulation. You probably have links to these, but for any government, state, city, county, if it has any federal funding whatsoever, it has to abide by the information freedom for everybody. So you can find everything at usa.gov if you can't find these things, or utah.gov or saltlakecity.gov. Be that as it may, these shouldn't be hard to find. So let me start by looking at the bill itself. So the first trick that you can do is, if you want to see rhetoric, so this has been prepared by like legal people, and so there's not necessarily witnesses or debate or things like that. This is just the bill itself, the proposed law. So what we can do is we could go to Keith Grover. Let's say, I like how equal opportunity initiatives, oh, DEI, okay. So let's look up DEI debate Keith Grover. If you want to see what this person wrote, you can find them like in the Deseret News. There'll be interviews all over the place. Oh, there's even a quote right there. Equality for all. Well, that's not ambiguous, is it? Oh, sorry, I don't want to influence. As a librarian, I'm completely unbiased, right? Burden to shoulder. See, you can find quotes almost immediately if you just look for the person's name that's a co-sponsor of the bill. So those are primary sources. So talk to your professor if I'm getting this definition right. So that's one way to go. Looking at the bill itself for rhetoric, some of this is intentionally ambiguous, so you might have to look for translations of it. So an institution of higher education, okay, that makes sense. But then as we get into the weeds of the bill, oh, it gets kind of like sticky. Like, what's the main point of the bill? We want somebody to boil it down for us. I have some tools. The first one is Gemini, and then I'm going to show you some Google contextual search. These are just looking for rhetoric. Sometimes you'll find somebody who says something, but sometimes you'll find kind of a framework of what to look for. So we're not necessarily finding quotes. We might be just finding background info. Let me show you Gemini first. Gemini is a Google app, not unlike ChatGPT, where you have to log in with your Google. But then it looks through a bunch of scholarship, local news, and things like that. And you can ask it questions like, and you can use word salad. What's the deal with, oh, it does that text thing. Hang on. What's the deal with DEI on Utah campuses bills? I haven't tested this search beforehand. Hey, look at that. So this is not authoritative. This is not, there's no author. think of it as kind of like you ask a seagull to go out to the ocean and get you some fish. It's going to go out to the ocean, and we know that it's fish, but we don't know where the seagull got the fish. That's kind of like what this is. So you can use this to get updates, and you can figure out what some of the sticking points are that you wouldn't otherwise. So we can't have at universities offices solely dedicated to DEI. You can't have mandatory trainings, and here it gives you some of the pieces that you can look for. So let's go and let's look and see if we can. So you can try it like word salad. It's pretty fun, but there's no author and you can't cite it. So never, never, never cite this because there's like no author. It's like it's just fished out of the ocean. Sometimes it'll give you links, but sometimes it's just kind of like throwing it out there. Mandatory training, differential treatment, focus on broader support. Oh, look at this, they even give a suggestion. Maybe you should call it student success and support centers. So Google contextual search. This is another tool that I discovered as a librarian over the years. So if we go to the Google search, you can type in something like Utah debate, and then whatever you type after a colon, so anything before the colon is what you want it searched in. After the colon is what you want to talk about. DEI on campuses bills. So instead of getting open-ended, congealed, and rhetoric, you will get people who are talking about this specifically with this kind of a sort of a smart contextual search. So it gives you like the bill, gives you Deseret News, but also we get things that might be advocacy groups. So there's the Tribune, Chronicle of Higher Ed, things that you wouldn't necessarily know what to search for. Let's try, so there's Utah News, let's try Utah Advocacy Group. You could do think tank, advocacy, I'll do advocacy groups. So maybe here we'll get, so there's Inside Higher Ed, News Dispatch, NPR. I was hoping to get lobby groups. So, conservative, Insight into Diversity, what's that? Higher Ed Dive, Utah Advocacy, maybe that search was a dud. Oh, there's Opinion. Hey, Opinion is a primary source where somebody, let's see who wrote it. I bet I'll get blocked. Oh, there we go. Gary P. Duran, we don't know who they are, but we can find examples of rhetoric and primary sources and things like this. You could also could go back and we could put Gary P. Duran right here, DEI on Utah campuses bills. So you see the idea is we're gathering names of people and we're gathering rhetoric of people to build out our case for explaining to our constituency the pros and the cons of such things. You could also do pros and cons, but you start to get some of the same stuff. Fortune showed up. I didn't know they still existed. Be that as it may, this is how you get things like that. If you know local TV sites, it's like KSL, ABC, CBS, they all have local news, and you can search on those. There's also local Reddit. If you're into any other social media, there might be like Discord, TikTok, who knows? People talking about these things, Twitter. Those are great places to go to grab quotes. The more authoritative of a person you can find, so somebody who identifies as a lawmaker, somebody who identifies as a constituent whose ideas are changing this. But as you go, write down things that matter. DEI. Higher education or college or university. So I just figured out that from this that the bills are pointed towards this population. So it's not for regular people can't do this or any other population. So the defined population is like higher education, maybe administration or colleges and universities. And then we could move on from there. So as you go, write down your keywords. Let's do the same one, but let's go into the secondary sources in the library. So when you go to the Marriott Library, I'm going to close this one, you can look for stuff in the catalog. So like bathroom bills. And I love the rhetoric, the stench of bathroom bills, the politicization of trans identity. It kind of goes all over the place. So you can throw in searches there. Your rights end where mine begin. Inflammatory rhetoric. And so going in there with a lot of keywords is great. If you go in with just something like this, it might be all over the place. So let's go to, if you go to databases, you can go by subject. And so you could go into like political science, or you could go into sociology. But I have a list of databases that I would like you to consider. If you go to research guides right here, if you type in communication, this is where you find all your librarians, by the way. If you go to communication and go to PhD and Masters, and the URL is right here, campusguides.libutah.edu/communication/PhD. The first thing that we did is we validated keywords, concepts, and we were looking for info. So we did a little bit of that in the catalog. We did a little bit of that on the open web. But now that we have enough keywords to be dangerous, we want to see what people are actually writing about. Nexus Uni is the darling of comm faculty, so let me show you that one first. This one has most of the newspapers in the United States, as well as legal, probably the bills show up in here. And you can search through a publication, cases, law reviews, country info. We'll just start with the news. And then let's do advanced search. And let's do Utah. And let's add another one. Let's say, what keywords did I find for this? Oh, we're doing bathroom. Bathroom or changing room, or I suppose, oh, they don't call it restrooms anymore, do they? If you know the name of the object or the thing that's being legislated on, it might have synonyms or related terms. If you put an or in between them, that'll mean that in the text of the articles, it'll look for bathroom, and then it will add to the pile everything that has changing room. But it will have to have Utah. And then let's do debate or rhetoric, because we don't want like stories of bathrooms that have broken in the Chevron. Debate or rhetoric or opinion or legislation or argument. I'm going to get to that. Every time you add one of these lines, and you can keep on adding lines, it will narrow it down further and further. So let's see what we get with this. Fingers crossed that we get something. How many did we get? 88. So here we have, this is secondary stuff that has a more of an editorial. So if somebody, just some random guy off the street like me, wants to say something, I can say it on Twitter and Reddit and all sorts of places. But these are represented by publications. So this is the Salt Lake Tribune. This is the Vermont Digger. That's awesome. I wonder why Utah shows up. Oh, because they're talking about them, Utah. If you want to see those publications, you can see the names of the publications. You can see what industry, if it's like a trade journal, are they talking about anything in particular? Publication type. You can really dig in if your search is really, really big. So for example, let's go back to our search. Go back to advanced search. Hopefully it'll leave my results. Let's get rid of Utah and just say we want this all over the place. Bathroom or changing room, debate, rhetoric, opinion. So we had 88 just for Utah. But if you want to see stuff all over the place, whoa, all of a sudden we have 10,000 plus. And here we can do statutes and legislation, legal news, briefs, pleadings, motions, and you can see all these different elements that are thrown in there. Changing room, debate. I like how they put stuff in quotes. Debate. It's a little catty, isn't it? Safe spaces is rhetoric. That's kind of empty rhetoric. Changing room policy. So as you come up with stuff, policy. Why can I not type a C? So as you come up with keywords, it might be law, it might be policy. Oh, there's a spelling error. Maybe I should be an editor too. But you can narrow down any number of ways. Negative news, I don't know what that means. I don't want to find negative personal news. Oh, cool, language. So other countries might be writing about this too. Apparently the Dutch have a line on this, but most of it's English because most of the newspapers indexed here are North America, I should say. Ooh, are there people who are leading these efforts? Presidential, Cristiano Ronaldo, Harry Kane, Messi, Beckham. What is going on with this? Must be something related to professional football, soccer. At any rate, those are ways that you can narrow down in newspapers. Let me show you another one. US Newsstream. You can also go into newspapers and do similar searches, but there's other ways of digging in. So you might try either one of these, depending on which one you like. There's one called CQ Researcher. This is a high-level national journalist's tool that's not unlike Google Gemini, where it boils things down, but there's an authoritative reporter who's gone and done the research. So let's look at that third one, social media regulation. This one might be all over the place. Blog explosion from 2006. Let's go back. Since TikTok is the flavor of the day, let's look at TikTok and see if they talk about the banning of TikTok. Oh, here, that one looks pretty good. I think that's what the TikTok is about. Maybe it's like nationalism. I know the Instagram issue a few years back was about social media and youth well-being. Think of this as an overview, a high-level overview of everything that's being talked about, but in an authoritative way, where you can see people have citations, they talk about specific people. Within the report, it just goes on and on and on forever. There's like some graphics about like who uses what. Again, they're authoritative. It's not just random info bits that people have thrown out there. The thing that I would like you to consider looking at is there's a chronology and a background. Background is kind of like precedence. Chronology is a short list of things that led up to where we are. So if you're looking at like the bathroom bill, that might be things like the recognition of gender issues or gender theory, or it might be, who knows, trans rights. The sky's the limit. And this will propose something that can give you ideas of moving forward. So, oh, look at there. There's even legislative precedents. And this, you often won't get this in editorials. So you can go back and say, well, what's the Communications Decency Act of 1996? America Online. So this one's pretty good. And it's citable. It's not scholarly, but you can get a citation for it. This is a secondary source. There are some primary statements in here. So for example, the pro-con. You'll get two people who are credible that are talking about it from one position or another. Ooh, they're a fellow in the Texas Public Policy Foundation. Oh, so I wonder if this person was involved with, what is it? There's two naughty websites that were banned in Texas by a law yesterday. I have a former librarian who used the word naughty, so I like using that one too. Okay, those are secondary sources. So this is kind of like loosey-goosey secondary. This is a little tighter secondary. And now to get into the scholarship, and this is where we've been writing down the words. Databases for discipline-specific goodness. How to stay current in discipline-specific research. These are the databases that if you go to the library homepage, they're the databases that are right here. I just made my favorite list. All of these are good to cruise into and see what you can find. My favorites for this particular assignment are Communication Mass Media Complete, sociological abstracts, education in full text, because this deals with K through 12, which is typically recognized as a protected population. If you're under 18, you're a member of a protected population. And PAIS are the good ones. You're probably familiar with this one. Let me show you PAIS. PAIS is public policy. Oh Lord, all of a sudden I'm being cookied to death. I can move my head. I grudgingly accept all the cookies. When you're in this database, and any of the databases, go to advanced search. Because we want to go straight to all the keywords that we can put in. So let's do this last one. Oh, let me go back to the bathroom changing rooms. And let me show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so let's do bathroom or changing room. Did you know that I stick stuff in quotes so those two words stick together? So this is not a smart search, so you have to be deliberate. If you misspell something, it'll only look for that misspelled version. Law or legislation or debate or argument. Oh, that's cool. And then lastly, let's tie it into a specific population. Let's say college or university or students or higher education. So we could do this for public spaces, we could do it theaters, we could do it in malls, but this one would specifically look at bills that were targeting universities and things like that. And again, do you see where I'm putting an or, because I don't know what it's called, so I'm doing an or to catch everything in between. So let's see what we have. Oh, let's click on the peer-reviewed checkbox. Then we get peer-reviewed high-level scholarship. And you'll notice I didn't put Utah in here because we're looking for how other people have talked about this debate. So we already know who's talked about it locally. We already know who's talked about it in secondary media to help focus. And now we're moving out to just like the main concepts of the debate. It's okay if we don't have Utah in every search. Public health crisis, all of a sudden transgender is another keyword. Here you can see socialist housing estates in Europe somewhere. You get these all these different ideas. What you can go and do is look under subject. So what, there's like 1,100 or 1,000. If you go under subject, this can help you break down your rhetoric into very specific chunks. So is housing a big deal? I don't know about studies, employment, household, policy making, you can narrow down. Case studies, that's what I want. I want to see where people have done this. Transgender people, healthcare policy, politics, women, human rights. I want to see what case studies they have. That's where something has been implemented, and then they do a study of how it shook out. Moral and marital conflicts over healthcare and homelessness. This is kind of looking not related to my topic. If you find things aren't quite related, let me show you another trick. Click on Modify Search, and then if this is the most important thing, put that in the title. Document title. That'll help focus us. I'll put this in the document title too. And then everything else can be anywhere. Oh, I only have 2, but all of a sudden we have exactly what I was looking for. What population you're looking for doesn't have to be in there. You could get rid of that altogether, and you could just look for main topics. So I'll get rid of that population. So now we're just looking at bathroom law, legislation, argument. Wait a minute, something must have broken. Sometimes this database, if you get weird results, start over. Maybe you have a bad cookie. It should have expanded this. Be that as it may. Let me show you another database. So try searching. If you need help with keywords, just send me an email. Last one. If you go to high-level systematic search tools, this is where you can find the best of the best. So let's go back to the first one, DEI, So this one, instead of looking at trying to find things for you, this is something that helps you sort down what's been cited the most, which means it's got the most impact, right? So let's do DEI, or maybe I'll just do diversity. Diversity or diversity, equity. I've seen it called EDI too. You get the idea. And then let's do college. Here's another trick. I could do college or colleges, or I could do a star, and that'll get both. Or higher education, or university. Maybe I'll do universit. And then I'm going to avoid law or legislation just to start out with, because I think that's kind of a big part of these articles. Holy cow. Okay. 37,000 is too much. This database looks at all the disciplines. So let's go to article title again. Good Lord. Maybe we can do law legislation. Congress or Senate or legal, and have that be in the title. Yeah, there's only 12. If you have way too many, keep adding keywords. If you have too few, take away keywords is the rule. Okay. Oh, that's fascinating. Anti-DEA legislation. There's another keyword search that we could add to our list. How do we know what the most important articles are? These both were written in the same kind of calendar time, but this one has 3 citations. That means this one is so important that these 3 articles couldn't exist without it. Here's another thing you should know. You can sort by number of times cited. And then here we see diverticular disease of the colon. This has nothing to do with what we're looking at. So you have to, this is not a smart search. It's an algorithm that works with the database. But it looks like this one, anti-DEA legislation targeting colleges and universities. Here's 2 things you can do. One, you can see what cited it. And this one, nothing's been cited, but you can see belonging, measurement, culture of social justice. But you can also click on the article itself, and you can see what it cited. So here you can view the search results. View in search results format. Good Lord. Ooh, and here you can see health equity legislation. My session timed out. How is that possible? Your results may vary. Here we go, 25, and sort by, whoa. So there's something called the seminal article, or the initial source that changed everything. So this one, there's a book apparently called Unequal Treatment, Confronting Racial and Ethnic Disparities in Healthcare. Ooh, it comes with a CD from 2003. This was so important that it spawned these almost 7,000 scholarly articles. So you can go through these and see, oh, what looks good. Looks like this is focused on nursing as a profession or as a discipline, but there's all sorts of great stuff that you can mine through this that will come back and inform our search about Utah. So when you're looking at Utah, here's my final summary. When you look at Utah and legislation, there might not be scholarly articles, there might not be a big body of scholarship on that. So you would look locally for that, for people saying things about it, and then you focus more on the topic and less on Utah as you get into the scholarship. If you want to, in any of these searches, you could add Utah as a keyword, but if you get nothing, this is why we did the searching in that format. Lastly, there's my name. If you're running stuck, if you want me to work with you, work with the team, if you want me to check stuff that you've written, I can help with citations, researching, tracking down articles, etc., etc. I'm happy to help.